Chapter 5, Blizzard Blitz. The storm raged with a ferocity that even the North Pole rarely witnessed. Snow whipped across the landscape, creating a swirling wall of white that obscured the alien ship hovering over the workshop. Condor's drones struggled to navigate through the tempest, their sensors flickering as they buzzed aimlessly. Deep within the storm, the Yetis moved like shadows. Their massive forms blended seamlessly with the environment, their powerful arms shaping the blizzard to further disorient the enemy. Each gust of wind was precisely directed to knock drones off course or bury patrol units under heaps of snow. Magnus led the polar bears in a coordinated ground assault. The bears moved with surprising stealth, their enormous frames silent against the icy terrain. With a roar, Magnus signaled the attack. The bears surged forward, clawing through alien patrol units and dismantling the ground defenses one piece at a time. Above the chaos, Santa's sleigh cut through the blizzard like a streak of red. The elves held tight to the sides, their makeshift weapons at the ready. Tinker, seated beside Santa, clutched his portable transmitter. "We're nearing the workshop," he shouted over the roar of the wind. Santa nodded, his eyes fixed on the faint outline of his beloved workshop through the storm. "Hold on tight. We're going in fast." As the sleigh approached, a group of drones broke through the storm, their green lights glowing menacingly. Santa snapped the reins, urging the reindeer into evasive maneuvers. The sleigh twisted and turned, narrowly avoiding the drones' laser beams. Jingle, braver than she felt, leaned out of the sleigh with a slingshot loaded with candy cane bombs. She aimed carefully and fired, striking one of the drones dead center. The explosion sent it spiraling into another, taking out two in one shot. "Great work, Jingle," Santa called, steering the sleigh into a sharp dive to evade the remaining drones. Tinker, frantically adjusting dials on his transmitter, finally let out a cheer. "I've got it. Their communication network is disrupted. They are flying blind." With the drones in disarray, Santa directed the sleigh toward the workshop's rooftop. The elves quickly slid down ropes, landing with surprising grace on the icy surface. Santa followed, landing with a crunch of snow beneath his boots. "Stay sharp, team," Santa said, his voice low. "We don't know what's waiting inside." They made their way to a vent that Tinker had identified as the best entry point. Santa pried it open, and one by one, the group descended into the workshop. The sight that greeted them was enough to stop them in their tracks. The once cheerful workshop was now a cold, sterile command center. Alien machinery hummed ominously, and Condor's drones patrolled the hallways. Conveyor belts that once carried toys now transported strange alien devices. "We need to get to the control room," Santa whispered. "That's where Condor will be." The group moved stealthily through the corridors, ducking behind crates and machinery to avoid detection. Jingle and Tinker worked together to disable drones when necessary, their teamwork honed over years of building toys. When they finally reached the control room, they found Condor standing in front of a massive holographic display, his back turned to them. The alien leader was studying a projection of Earth, his glowing eyes scanning the planet as if plotting his next move. Santa stepped forward, his boots echoing on the metal floor. "Condor," he said, his voice steady. Condor turned slowly, his expression unreadable. "Claus," he said. "You've returned sooner than expected." "This ends now," Santa said, gripping his staff tightly. "You don't understand Christmas, and you never will. It's not something you can take or control." Condor tilted his head, his glowing eyes narrowing. "You speak as if this tradition is invincible. But I have seen your world. Greed, division, and chaos, all amplified by the very holiday you claim unites them." "You're wrong," Santa said firmly. "Christmas is about bringing people together, even in the darkest times. It's about hope, something you clearly don't understand." Condor stepped closer, his imposing frame towering over Santa. "Hope is an illusion. Control is what ensures survival." Santa smiled, his blue eyes twinkling. "Then you've already lost." Before Condor could respond, a sudden tremor shook the room. The Yetis and polar bears had breached the outer defenses, their coordinated attack disrupting the ship's stabilizers. Condor's calm demeanor faltered for the first time. "What have you done?" Santa seized the moment. I've reminded you that Christmas isn't about one person or even one place. It's about all of us working together. Tinker activated his transmitter, flooding the workshop with an EMP pulse that fried the alien systems. Condor's drones collapsed mid-flight, their lights flickering out. The holographic display disappeared, and the hum of the alien machinery ceased. The workshop fell silent as Condor stared at Santa, his glowing eyes dimming slightly. This is not over, Claus. Santa raised his staff. It is for tonight. As the storm outside began to subside, Santa and his team stood victorious. But they knew the fight wasn't truly over. Condor and his forces had been stopped for now, but the battle for Christmas, and the hope it carried, was far from finished. Chapter 6: Condor Strikes Back. The faint glow of the aurora shimmered above the North Pole as Santa's team regrouped outside the workshop. The Yetis and polar bears stood watch, their massive forms forming a protective circle around the perimeter. The elves worked quickly, assessing the damage to the workshop and salvaging whatever they could. "Good job with the EMP, Tinker," Santa said, clapping the young elf on the shoulder. "But Condor won't give up this easily." Tinker adjusted his goggles, his face still tense. "We might have stopped him here, but his ship is still operational. He's out there, and I don't think he'll make the same mistake twice." Magnus, the leader of the polar bears, stepped forward. His deep voice cut through the cold air. "We need to act before Condor regroups. He won't retreat for long." Santa nodded, his expression grim. "Agreed. But we'll need more than brute force to take down that ship. We'll need strategy, and a little Christmas ingenuity." Grumac, the Yeti elder, growled thoughtfully. "The blizzard slowed them down, but it won't work again." "What's your plan, Claus?" Santa looked up at the night sky, where Condor's ship hovered faintly in the distance. "We'll take the fight to him. But first, we need to make sure the workshop is secure." As the elves and their allies fortified the workshop, Condor's ship loomed closer. Inside the alien vessel, Condor stood at the central console, his glowing eyes fixed on a live feed of the North Pole. "These creatures are more resourceful than I anticipated," Condor admitted, his voice cold. "But they are merely delaying the inevitable." A subordinate, smaller but equally menacing, approached. "Our systems are partially operational. Should we prepare for a direct assault?" Condor shook his head. "No. Santa Claus thrives on defense. We will force him to act. Activate the drone swarm. We'll draw him out and finish this on our terms." Outside, Santa's team spotted the first wave of drones approaching from the horizon. The silver orbs glinted under the moonlight, their engines humming faintly. "They are coming back," Tinker warned, adjusting his transmitter. "And there's a lot more of them this time." Santa tightened his grip on his staff. "Everyone, get into position. We'll hold them off here." The Yetis prepared to summon another storm, while the polar bears readied themselves for battle. The elves, armed with candy cane explosives and spring-loaded jack-in-the-box traps, stood shoulder to shoulder with their allies. The first drones broke through the storm, firing beams of light at the defenders. The Yetis countered with chunks of ice hurled with incredible force, knocking several drones out of the sky. Magnus and his polar bears lunged at the drones that got too close, swiping them down with powerful claws. Santa moved through the chaos, directing his team and taking out drones with his precision-crafted candy cane launcher. "Stay focused," he called. "We've got this." But as the battle raged on, a strange sound filled the air. The hum of Condor's ship grew louder, and a massive beam of light shot down from its underside, carving through the snow and ice. "It's a distraction," Tinker shouted. "They are trying to split us up." Santa's mind raced. Condor was forcing his hand, and he knew it. The alien leader wanted Santa to take the fight to the ship, and it was a risk Santa had no choice but to take. "Magnus, Grumac," Santa called. "Hold the ground here. I'm going up." Magnus nodded. "We'll keep them busy, Claus. Do what you must." Santa climbed into the sleigh, joined by Tinker and Jingle. "Ready?" he asked, snapping the reins. "Let's do this," Tinker said, clutching his transmitter tightly. The sleigh shot into the sky, dodging drones as it raced toward Condor's ship. The closer they got, the more apparent the scale of the alien craft became. It was enormous, bristling with weapons and glowing with an otherworldly light. "We're almost there," Santa shouted. "Hold on." The sleigh weaved through a barrage of lasers, finally reaching the ship's underside. Tinker fired a grappling hook, securing the sleigh to the ship's hull. Santa climbed out, his boots gripping the metallic surface. "Jingle, stay with the sleigh," Santa ordered. "Tinker, you're with me. Let's find Condor and end this." The two made their way through a hatch in the ship's hull, navigating the sleek, alien corridors. The hum of machinery filled the air as they moved deeper into the ship. Finally, they reached the control room. Condor was waiting for them, his glowing eyes narrowing as they entered. "You've come far, Claus," Condor said, his voice echoing. "But this is where your story ends." Santa stepped forward, his staff in hand. "Christmas isn't just a story, Condor. It's hope, and you'll never take that from us." The final showdown had begun. Chapter 7, Clash on the Mothership. The control room hummed with alien energy, the air charged with tension as Santa faced Condor. The alien leader stood tall, his imposing figure outlined by glowing circuitry embedded in the walls. His ship's systems whirred around him, a living extension of his will. Tinker adjusted the device strapped to his chest, his fingers trembling but steady. "Santa, I've got a plan to disable the ship's core, but I'll need time." "You'll have it," Santa replied, gripping his staff tightly. "Do what you need to do." Condor's glowing eyes flicked between them. "You are resourceful, Claus, but you've underestimated me. I've studied your traditions, your symbols, your so-called magic. It is nothing but a collection of tools and illusions." Santa stepped forward, his boots clicking against the sleek floor. "You've studied Christmas, but you've missed its heart. It's not about tools or power. It's about the connections we forge and the spirit we share. That's something your machines will never understand." Condor raised a metallic arm, and the room came alive. Panels shifted, revealing mechanical arms armed with energy weapons. Drones descended from hidden compartments, their green lights glowing menacingly. "Let's see how your spirit fares against precision and control," Condor said coldly. Santa wasted no time. He twirled his staff, unleashing a burst of golden light that disrupted the nearest drones. The metallic arms fired beams of energy, but Santa ducked and rolled, his movements surprisingly agile for his stature. Tinker darted to a console on the far side of the room, his small hands flying over the alien controls. "I'm in. Keep him busy." Santa engaged Condor directly, their clash a mix of old-world magic and alien technology. Condor's arm transformed into a blade, striking with mechanical precision. Santa parried with his staff, sparks flying as the two forces collided. "You think you can stop me with relics and sentimentality?" Condor sneered, pressing the attack. Santa countered, his movements calm and measured. "Sentimentality isn't weakness, Condor. It's strength born from unity and purpose. And that's something you'll never conquer." Meanwhile, Tinker worked frantically, deciphering the alien language and bypassing security systems. He located the ship's power core, a pulsating sphere of energy housed deep within the vessel. "Santa," Tinker called out, "I've found the core, but it's heavily shielded. I need a diversion to overload the systems." Santa nodded, deflecting a blow from Condor's blade. "Leave that to me." Drawing on the magic imbued in his staff, Santa slammed it into the floor. The room lit up with a burst of golden energy that short-circuited the remaining drones and disrupted the ship's systems. Condor staggered, momentarily thrown off balance. Taking advantage of the opening, Tinker activated his transmitter, sending a surge of interference through the ship's network. Lights flickered, and the hum of the engines grew erratic. Condor regained his footing, his expression colder than ever. "You dare tamper with my vessel?" Tinker grinned despite the danger. "What can I say? I've got a knack for fixing and breaking things." Condor lunged toward the elf, but Santa intercepted him, blocking the attack with his staff. The two clashed again, their fight growing fiercer as the ship trembled around them. "Tinker, now's your chance," Santa shouted, locking blades with Condor. The elf darted toward the power core, planting a series of candy cane-shaped charges around its base. "This should do it," he called out, setting the timer. Condor snarled, his focus split between Santa and Tinker. "You think destroying my ship will stop me? I will rebuild. I will return." Santa smirked, his eyes twinkling with determination. "Maybe. But you won't stop Christmas, no matter how many times you try." The charges detonated, sending a shockwave through the ship. The core destabilized, its energy spilling out in wild arcs of light. Condor staggered as the room shook violently. Santa grabbed Tinker and raced for the exit. "Hold on, my boy," he shouted, summoning his sleigh with a whistle. The sleigh smashed through the control room's window, the reindeer galloping through the chaos. Santa and Tinker leapt aboard as the ship's systems collapsed. Condor, still standing amidst the destruction, glared after them. "This isn't over, Claus," he growled, his voice echoing through the crumbling ship. The sleigh shot out into the night sky, the alien vessel glowing ominously behind them. Santa guided the reindeer with steady hands, sporting a grin on his jolly face. "Did we do it?" Tinker asked, his voice shaky. Santa glanced back at the ship, now spiraling toward the frozen tundra below. "For now. But Condor's not one to give up easily. We'll need to be ready for whatever comes next." As the ship crashed in the distance, a bright light lit up the horizon. Santa's sleigh soared into the sky, carrying the hope of Christmas forward. Chapter 8. The Spirit of Christmas. The sky over the North Pole was painted in streaks of gold and silver as the remnants of Condor's ship smoldered on the icy horizon. The alien leader's forces were scattered, his mighty vessel reduced to wreckage. But Santa and his team knew better than to celebrate too soon. Back at the workshop, the elves, yetis, and polar bears worked tirelessly to secure the area. The destruction caused by the invasion had left the workshop battered, but its spirit remained intact. The sound of hammers, saws, and cheerful chatter filled the air as they rebuilt what had been damaged. Santa landed his sleigh in the center of the workshop courtyard. Jingle and Tinker hopped out, their faces worn but filled with resolve. Santa climbed down, his boots crunching in the snow as he addressed the gathered crowd. "Friends," he began, his voice carrying over the cold air, "we've faced challenges before, but none like this. Condor underestimated what Christmas truly means, not just to us, but to the entire world. And though he's being stopped for now, we must prepare for the future." The crowd cheered, their determination renewed. Magnus and Grumac stepped forward, each nodding in agreement. "We stand ready, Claus," Magnus said, his deep voice steady. "If Condor returns, we'll be here to face him together." Grumac grunted his approval. "The spirit of this place is stronger than any weapon." That alien leader learned it the hard way. Inside the workshop, Santa and Tinker worked on repairing the central Christmas systems. Tinker adjusted the workshop's magical generator, its intricate mechanisms glowing faintly. "The EMP I used scrambled some of the systems, but it's nothing I can't fix," he said confidently. Santa smiled, patting the young elf on the back. "You've outdone yourself, Tinker. Your ingenuity saved us today." Jingle entered the room, carrying a tray of steaming cocoa. "And don't forget teamwork," she added with a grin. "We couldn't have done it without everyone pitching in." As they worked, a faint sound echoed from the workshop's perimeter. It was a low hum, growing steadily louder. Santa's eyes narrowed, and he exchanged a glance with Tinker. "It's him," Santa said, his tone firm. Outside, the remnants of Condor's forces appeared, emerging from the wreckage of the alien ship. Condor himself stood at their forefront, his glowing eyes dimmed but still fierce. Despite his defeat, his presence exuded defiance. "You won this round, Claus," Condor said, his voice cutting through the frigid air. "But the fight is far from over. I will return, and I will finish what I started." Santa stepped forward, staff in hand, his expression unyielding. "You still don't understand, Condor. Christmas isn't something you can destroy. It's an idea, a feeling, a connection that exists beyond anything you can control." Condor's gaze swept over the crowd of elves, yetis, and polar bears standing behind Santa, their unity an undeniable force. For the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed his face. "You fight for something intangible," Condor said, his tone quieter. Something illogical. Santa nodded, his voice soft but firm. It may seem illogical to you, but it's what makes us strong. And that strength will always overcome fear and control. For a moment, silence filled the air. Condor's forces hesitated, their mechanical movements slowing as if processing Santa's words. Then, without warning, Condor turned and began to retreat toward the horizon. "This isn't over," he called out, his voice echoing faintly. Santa watched him go, his grip on his staff relaxing slightly. He turned to the gathered crowd and raised his voice. "Let him go. He'll learn in time that some things can't be taken by force." The crowd erupted in cheers, their hope rekindled. The workshop's bells rang out across the snowy landscape, a symbol of resilience and unity. As the sun rose over the North Pole, the elves resumed their work with renewed energy. The Yetis and polar bears stood watch, ensuring the safety of the workshop. And Santa, ever vigilant, began preparing for the next Christmas, because no matter the challenges, the spirit of the holiday would endure. Above all, they knew that Christmas was not just a day or a place. It was a promise shared across the world that no force could extinguish. Chapter 9: A Christmas Counteroffensive. The quiet of the North Pole was short-lived. Though Condor had retreated, the threat of his return loomed heavy over the workshop. Santa stood in his study, a fire crackling in the hearth, gazing out at the icy expanse. His thoughts churned with the knowledge that Condor wouldn't stay defeated for long. Tinker entered, carrying a holographic map he had salvaged from the alien ship. "Santa, we've decrypted part of Condor's data. It looks like he has an orbital station hidden beyond the moon. That's where he's regrouping." Santa turned from the window, his expression firm. "Then we must take the fight to him before he can strike again. We can't risk waiting for another attack." Jingle joined them, her arms crossed. "We've never left Earth to protect Christmas before. Are we really prepared for this?" Santa's eyes sparkled with determination. "Christmas is about giving, Jingle. And today, we're giving hope to everyone by showing that no matter how far the threat reaches, the spirit of Christmas will endure." Word of the mission spread quickly, and the workshop buzzed with activity. The elves, Yetis, and polar bears worked together to prepare Santa's sleigh for interstellar travel. Tinker outfitted it with shields and propulsion systems scavenged from Condor's wreckage, while Jingle led a team in crafting new defensive tools. By nightfall, the sleigh gleamed with its upgrades, the reindeer ready for the journey. Santa gathered his team, Tinker, Jingle, and Magnus the polar bear leader, to lay out the plan. "We'll infiltrate Condor's station and disable it from the inside," Santa explained. "Tinker, you'll handle the systems. Magnus, you and Jingle will watch our backs. I'll deal with Condor if it comes to that." Magnus growled in approval. "Let's show this alien what the North Pole is made of." The sleigh took off, slicing through the Arctic winds and into the starry sky. The Earth shrank behind them as they passed the moon, its surface glowing softly in the distance. Ahead, a massive station loomed, its metallic structure bristling with weaponry and defenses. As they approached, Condor's voice crackled over a communicator. "You're persistent, Claus. But this time, you've overstepped. My station is impregnable." "We'll see about that," Santa replied, steering the sleigh toward a hidden docking port Tinker had identified on the map. The team disembarked quietly, their breath fogging in the cold of space. Tinker led the way, using his modified transmitter to bypass the station's security systems. The corridors were eerily silent, lit by a faint, otherworldly glow. "Stay sharp," Jingle whispered, her candy cane blaster at the ready. They reached the station's control room, where a massive console displayed a hologram of Earth. Condor's plan was clear. He intended to launch a full-scale invasion, targeting major cities around the world. "We have to stop this now," Santa said, his voice low. "Tinker, shut it down." The elf set to work, his fingers flying over the alien interface. "This system's more advanced than anything I've seen, but I think I can overload the power core. It'll take a few minutes." Suddenly, alarms blared, and Condor appeared in the doorway, flanked by a squad of robotic soldiers. "You've made a grave mistake coming here, Claus," he growled. Santa stepped forward, his staff glowing faintly. "Condor, it's not too late to stop this." "You don't have to fight." Condor sneered. Weakness is not an option in my world. Surrender is not in my nature. The robots charged, and Magnus roared, barreling into them with incredible force. Jingle fired her blaster, taking out drones as they swarmed the room. Santa engaged Condor, their battle fierce and unrelenting. You fight for power, Santa said, blocking a strike. But power fades. What lasts are the bonds we create, the kindness we show. Condor struck with precision, but Santa's agility and resolve matched every move. Meanwhile, Tinker worked feverishly, the console sparking as he overrode its systems. I've got it, Tinker shouted. The core will overload in 3 minutes. Santa disengaged from Condor, his voice commanding. Team, fall back. We're done here. Magnus and Jingle covered Tinker as they retreated to the sleigh, but Condor wasn't ready to concede. He lunged at Santa, his metallic arm shifting into a blade. Santa parried with his staff, his voice calm but firm. Condor, you're only delaying the inevitable. You'll never win by destroying others. Condor hesitated, his movements faltering. But before he could respond, the station shuddered violently, the overload reaching critical levels. Santa leapt onto the sleigh, snapping the reins. Let's go. The sleigh shot out of the docking port just as the station erupted in a brilliant explosion. Condor's figure was lost in the chaos, his fate uncertain. As the sleigh soared back toward Earth, Santa looked at his team, their faces lit by the glow of the stars. We did it, he said, his voice filled with pride. But this isn't just about winning. It's about protecting the hope and joy that bring us together. Earth came into view, its blue and green hues shining brightly. The team descended toward the North Pole, ready to rebuild and prepare for the challenges yet to come. Chapter 10. The Greatest Gift. The North Pole was alive with energy as the sleigh descended from the sky. Elves cheered, reindeer pranced, and the sound of bells filled the air. Despite the trials they had faced, Santa and his team returned victorious, carrying with them the light of hope. Santa stepped off the sleigh, his red coat dusted with starlight. He looked out over his friends and family, elves, yetis, polar bears, and more, and gave them a warm, reassuring nod. We've faced a challenge unlike any before, Santa said, his voice strong and steady. But together, we've shown that Christmas is more than a day. It's a force that can't be broken. It's love, kindness, and the joy we share, no matter where we are. The crowd erupted in cheers, their relief and excitement spreading like wildfire. Yet, as the celebrations began, Santa's mind wandered to the stars. Condor had vanished in the explosion, but something about their final encounter lingered in his heart. Jingle approached, holding a steaming mug of cocoa. You're thinking about him, aren't you? Santa accepted the cocoa with a small smile. I am. Condor's actions were destructive, but I sensed something else in him, a flicker of doubt, of possibility. You think he can change? Jingle asked, her voice curious. Maybe, Santa replied. Even the coldest winter can give way to spring. Sometimes, it just takes time and the right example. Inside the workshop, Tinker worked to repair the damage from the battle. The magical systems hummed to life, and the conveyor belts rolled forward once more. The elves sang as they worked, their voices rising in harmony. Santa watched from the doorway, his heart swelling with pride. They never lose their spirit, he said softly. Neither do you, Magnus said, stepping up beside him. The polar bear leader folded his massive arms. We couldn't have done this without you, Claus. You give us all the strength to keep going. Santa chuckled. It's not me alone, Magnus. It's all of us, working together. As the workshop returned to full operation, preparations for Christmas resumed. Despite the interruptions, Santa was determined to deliver joy to every corner of the world. On Christmas Eve, the sleigh stood ready, its upgrades blending seamlessly with its traditional charm. The reindeer were harnessed, their antlers adorned with ribbons and bells. Santa stood before his team, his eyes twinkling. This year's deliveries will mean more than ever, he said. They'll show that no matter the odds, we'll always spread kindness and joy. With a hearty laugh and a snap of the reins, Santa took off into the night sky. The sleigh soared over snow-covered landscapes, through bustling cities, and across quiet villages. Every gift delivered carried a message of resilience and love. As the final hours of Christmas approached, Santa's route took him over the Arctic, where the stars shone brighter than ever. It was then he noticed something unusual, a faint glimmer on the horizon, growing closer. It was a small alien craft, battered but functional. Santa recognized it immediately. The craft hovered beside the sleigh, and Condor's face appeared on a screen. He looked weary, his glowing eyes dimmer than before. "Claus," he said, his voice quieter than Santa had ever heard. I don't understand you. Even after everything, you continue to give." Santa smiled, his voice warm. "Giving isn't about what we get in return, Condor. It's about showing others they're not alone. Even you." Condor hesitated, his metallic form seeming less rigid. "You could have destroyed me. Yet, you didn't." "Everyone deserves a chance to change," Santa replied. "Even you." For a moment, silence hung between them. Then Condor nodded slowly. "Perhaps, there's more to learn from you than I realized." The craft veered away, disappearing into the night sky. Santa watched it go, his heart light. When he returned to the North Pole, the elves greeted him with excitement. "Did you finish the deliveries?" Jingle asked, bouncing on her toes. "I did," Santa replied. "And perhaps I delivered something even more important, a chance for understanding." As the stars twinkled above the North Pole, the workshop hummed with life and laughter. The battle was over, but the true victory lay in the promise of a brighter tomorrow. Christmas had endured, and so had its message, that even in the darkest times, hope, love, and kindness could light the way.